Welcome back to Brandon Sports, everybody. Hope you have an amazing day. I'm here to give you guys my opinions about the New York Jets off-season free agency moves, depth chart, coaching staff, and all of the above heading into the NFL draft for 2026. Now, my first overall thoughts about the New York Jets heading into the draft and their entire offseason was I thought they did a good job with their offseason. Now, the problem that I do have about the New York Jets is obviously everybody's problem, which is the quarterback situation. Now, Aaron Glenn today stated that Geno Smith is the starting quarterback for the New York Jets for this season, and he will bring us to the promised land. Now, I disagree. In this entire division, Geno Smith is the third quarterback, and the only reason why he's the third quarterback is because Malik Willis is fourth by default because we don't know what he's going to look like in Miami. So first we're going to run through the offense for the New York Jets and their depth chart before we get to the free agency signings and basically plug everybody in. So you have Geno Smith at quarterback, who's basically going to be a veteran guy who's basically a stopgap quarterback. He's going to be there for one, maybe even 2 more years, this year, next year. And if you draft a quarterback going into next year's draft, Geno Smith might start the season, or if the quarterback is great enough, he might actually be the backup just to have a veteran presence just in case something goes wrong. So you have Geno Smith, who's basically the guy who's going to hold the fort down. Now your backup quarterbacks, Brady Cook and Bailey Zappi. I mean, it doesn't really matter at this point because we all know these guys are not starting quarterbacks. They're just going to be in the quarterback room. Breece Hall, franchise tag. He's your running back. Your running back room is decent, although I don't know if Breece Hall's going to be there next year if these guys don't get a deal done. But that's besides the point for right now. Breece Hall is your running back when he signs that franchise tag. You have Garrett Wilson on the wide receiver position. Again, a great number 1 wide receiver. For me, this team is missing a number 2 and most likely a number 3. Do I trust Isaiah Williams? No. Do I trust Adonde Mitchell to be a good number 2 for you guys? Absolutely not. He can be a nice number 3, but I do not trust him to be you guys' number 2. Having said all that, that is your first empty hole at the wide receiver position. You guys need a strong number 2 fill-in at the wide receiver position. Now, as I take a look at the wide receivers, Cordell Tate, Jordan Tyson, Mekhi Lemon, Denzel Boston, Amari Cooper Jr., I believe that if Jordan Tyson or Mekhi Lemon is available, one of the receivers should be taken to be your number 2. Right now, you're building this team up for your next quarterback of the future who will be there not this year, but next year. Do I think the Jets should draft Ty Simpson? No, because if Aaron Glenn, your head coach, gets fired, who says the next coach is going to want Ty Simpson as their quarterback? Now, for me, the New York Jets in this year's draft have the 2nd pick and the 16th pick. Do I think they go wide receiver with the 2nd pick? No. Do I think they go wide receiver with the 16th pick? Absolutely. With the 2nd pick, everybody's basically saying that they're going to take Alvin Reese, the linebacker from basically Ohio State, or basically a defensive end. But if I'm the New York Jets, I would take him as well. If you're going to put whether it's going to be linebacker or defensive end, we don't know what he's going to be with this New York Jets. Aaron Glenn might want to have him at linebacker, or he might just put him at defensive end. I think he's basically probably going to play defensive end for the New York Jets. Now, getting back to the offense side of the ball before we really dive into defense, I really do think with the 16th pick, you guys should take wide receiver. Do not take 2 defensive players in the first round of this year's draft. Take a wide receiver to help Garrett Wilson and take some of the load off and the pressure of him being your number 1 wide receiver. So you should definitely go out and draft the number 2 wide receiver with the 16th pick. Adonde Mitchell can be your number 3. To me, again, he's just not a number 2. Isaiah Williams and everybody else in the locker room is basically fighting to be on the team. But if I'm the New York Jets, my draft plan is to draft defense, 2nd pick, and the 16th pick will go to a wide receiver. Now we go to the tight end room with Mason Taylor. Mason Taylor, to me, good pass-catching tight end. Jeremy Ruckert is more of a blocking tight end, even though he can be versatile. I do like Mason Taylor a lot from LSU. This year, he'll be fully healthy, so hopefully you guys will get him going in the passing game even more. And to me, if you draft another wide receiver and you have Mason Taylor, that will basically help this offense under Frank Wright because he likes to throw the ball in this offense. A lot of people think that his offense is outdated, but this year, the offense could use somebody of his expertise. Instead of having a young offense, you could basically have an older guy have more experience, because I know that an article that the New York Jets fired over 8 to 9 assistants on this team last year, and all the assistants that Aaron Glenn brought in have basically combined over 80 years of experience coaching in the league, and I think that's what this team needs more, especially with a first-time head coach in Aaron Glenn. Even though this is his 2nd year, he did the right thing. Even though it was a massive overhaul, he did the right thing by getting more veteran coaches in the building. Now, however you feel about Frank Wright as your offensive coordinator, everybody's got different opinions about it, but I do think with Geno Smith being there, having a veteran coach being there instead of a young coach will be beneficial, even though Geno Smith is a veteran. But it'll be beneficial for the other guys in the locker room, such as Mason Taylor and the other young guys that will be coming in. So Mason Taylor's your tight end that I like. Your fullback, Andrew Beck, played all the games last year. He'll be back this year. Now, the great thing about the New York Jets that a lot of people are not talking about, and this is something that I really like. I'm looking at the depth chart right now. And the one thing I want you to do while you're following along with this video is go on ESPN.com and look at the depth chart. Just a mock depth chart. It's not the final depth chart because the season hasn't begun yet. But what I like about ESPN is that they actually update their depth chart, people who sign, and basically, this person's going to be a starter unless the draft happens. But this is just before the draft. And what I do like about the Jets is your offensive line. To me, this is one of the better young offensive lines in the league. And the one thing I really want to say about this offensive line is that every single offensive lineman that you had this year started all of their games last year. Your right tackle, your right guard, your center, your left guard, and your left tackle started all 17 games last year. Now, John Simpson did leave and go back to the Baltimore Ravens, but you brought in the left guard from the Vegas Raiders, who I think will do a good job. And if you look at the offensive line, I always try to say this: if you have 3 good offensive linemen, sometimes you can make up for the other 2 that you think are not that great. However, in this case, your right tackle, your right guard, your center, and your left tackle are all very good in my opinion. Now, you did lose on Elijah Vera Tucker. He did go to the Patriots, but he couldn't stay healthy here. So if you look at Dylan Parman, if that's how you say his name, forgive me if I said it wrong. Again, he was with the Vegas Raiders last year. Let's see what he can do at the left guard position, because you guys did sign him to a 2-year, $16 million contract with a $5 million signing bonus and over $7 million guaranteed. Now, again, are you guys going to draft the guard later in the draft? I'm not sure. But I think right now this basically signals that he's going to be a left guard. Not of the future, but at least for this year. So I really like the New York Jets offensive line. In fact, I think that this offensive line, bringing in a quarterback next year, will basically help out tremendously. You draft the wide receiver with the 16th pick. You have Mason Taylor. This sets up to be that if any quarterback coming out of next year's draft class in 2027, like Arch Manning, Dante Moore, or Sayin from Ohio State, I think that this sets up well for these guys to be in this position. If Aaron Glenn is going to be there, we don't know yet. But the best part about the New York Jets is their offensive line. The oldest offensive lineman that you have is your center, who is going to be 28 years old, which is a really good thing. Your left tackle and your right tackle is very young. Right guard is young. Left guard is 28 years old, or turning 27 years old, and your center is turning 28. So this is a fantastic offensive line. I really, really like this offensive line. I like your tight end. Again, the missing hole in this entire offense for the New York Jets is that wide receiver number 2 spot. And I think that's a spot that they have to draft with the 16th pick overall. Then we're going to move to the defense. And this defense, I do like the fact that Aaron Glenn brought in a lot of rotational guys who could basically come in and rotate. Now, you did sign Joseph Asai from the Cincinnati Bengals, who had 5 sacks last year. Now he's going to be in your defense. Then you brought in Kingsley Enegbar, if that's how his name. Correct me if I'm wrong. But you brought him in on a 1-year deal, $10 million deal. So you bring him in to be a rotational piece on this defensive line. And as I look at this defensive line, you have him will be basically probably Joseph Asai will probably get the start, because you did sign him to a 3-year deal worth $34.5 million. So maybe if he's going to be the guy who starts on the defensive end spot. You brought in Tavondre Sweat after you traded Jeremiah Johnson. You got him for the Tennessee Titans. You have Miley Smith, who you traded for basically Quentin Williams. You got him back. Basically, he's going to be a depth guy as well. David Amayada, the defensive tackle, he's going to be there for depth. You have Will McDonald, who had 8 sacks last year. You have Harrison Phillips. You brought him back. So again, this defensive line is not bad. Is it the greatest defensive line? No. But it's still good enough, and if you draft Alvin Reese with the pick as well, I think it'll do wonders for this New York Jets team. And you brought in Demario Davis, so you signed on a 2-year, $22 million contract, which I think is a good locker room leading thing for him to basically get through to the defense, who's basically going to be, again, running Aaron Glenn's system. You look at the corners and the safeties, I do think that in the second round with the 33rd pick, you guys should draft another defensive corner or a safety, depending on how the team wants. To me, again, their current need right now is an edge rusher, a wide receiver with the first pick and the second pick in the draft. Then after that, obviously the quarterback position is going to be there, but you need a corner and a interior inside lineman, like another defensive tackle, or you would draft a cornerback, because you did bring in Minka Fitzpatrick as a safety. You have Brandon Stevens as a corner. You still have Andre Cisco because you re-signed him this year after he got hurt last year. So when you look at this entire team, for me, I look at the New York Jets as a team that's not going to be great next year, but can win some games. Now, last year, this team did go 3-14. Do I think you guys go 3-14 again? No. I think in this division, you guys will be the third best team. Because we all know what the New England Patriots are, we all know what the Buffalo Bills are, and we really know what the Miami Dolphins are. So the New York Jets, with this new and improved coaching staff that they assembled under Aaron Glenn, should be, again, the third best team in this division. And not only that, I'm looking at your draft picks right now as I'm speaking again. The second pick, a defensive player, because I think that's what they're really leaning towards. The 16th pick, again, from the Colts, should be a wide receiver. Then you have the 33rd pick in the second round. And then you also have the 44th pick from the Dallas Cowboys. So when you take that second round pick, which is 33rd pick, I do think, again, you guys should draft another corner or a safety, and I will use the 44th pick to draft another interior defensive lineman. You guys don't have a third round pick because you traded it to Philadelphia, and you have 2 fourth round picks where you can fill up the rest of the roster. But the first 4 picks that you guys have is in the top 50 of picks, which is a great position for you guys to be in going in for the long term. Again, is this team going to be a great team next year? No. Are they going to be decent? Do they want to play their way out of that, maybe a top 5 pick? No. Do I think Geno Smith is going to come in and light it up? No, but I think he's going to play better than he did with the Raiders, because let's just be honest about the Raiders. Besides what they did in the offseason, they were not a great team last year. They're picking number 1 for a reason. So I do think that Geno Smith will be a better quarterback for New York. Better, obviously, than Justin Fields. But when you look at this entire depth chart, as a Jets fan, you should be optimistic for next year when you get your quarterback. This year, you guys know, hey, listen, we're going to finish third in the division. You don't want to play yourself out of getting a quarterback, which, again, they're improving the team so much. You would think so, but no. I think, again, they'll be third in division, but if you get your quarterback next year, it's going to be a great thing for your young quarterback who is going to be drafted basically in the top 5, and you plug them into the system with a new head coach, presumably, if everything goes wrong with Aaron Glenn or whatever the case will be, you guys still not winning games. And if he gets fired, you guys bring in a new coach, an offensive leading coach. And by the way, I don't want Aaron Glenn to be fired, but let's just call it what it is. I don't think they're going to rebuild the team with him being as the head coach. Basically, I'm saying he's going to be the fall guy. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. He's going to be the fall guy, and he's probably going to be let go after this season after they have another not good season. But I do think the Miami Dolphins will be much worse than the New York Jets. So next year, when you bring in the quarterback, if you re-sign Breece Hall, if you don't, you'll probably draft the running back in next year's draft. But you would have another quarterback, basically. Let's just say if it's Dante Moore from Oregon. You would bring him in with let's just say they re-sign Breece Hall. This is just for the sake of this conversation. You bring back Breece Hall. So you have Dante Moore, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, another wide receiver with the 16th pick. You'd have Mason Taylor, a great offensive line. Then you go to the defense. You would draft a guy like Alvaro Reese. You would draft another corner, and then you would draft another defensive lineman. I think coming into next season, the 2027 season, will be a great season for the New York Jets, even though they're going to be competing with New England being the first best team, especially coming off Super Bowl, even though they lost Super Bowl, coming off of Super Bowl, and then you would have Buffalo being second. But I do think next year, if you get the coach and quarterback right, or you keep Aaron Glenn, and everything goes well, and the ownership is impressed with Aaron Glenn and what he does, you'd have Frank right there to basically be a veteran coach and help coach up a guy like a Dante Moore or Arch Manning or anybody else who will be a quarterback. So for me, with the New York Jets, they're not far away. I know a lot of people are basically not optimistic about the season. They just have to get the quarterback right, and which they never do. So I do understand where everybody's coming from. But again, if they get the quarterback right, whether they keep Aaron Glenn or not, you have a veteran staff here. You have Bill Musgrave as basically your quarterback's coach. I know he was in Cleveland. Now everything doesn't go right in Cleveland, but you still have veteran coaches here for this year. And if they want to do keeping Aaron Glenn, then you have veteran coaches who are going to be here to basically coach up Dante Moore. So we're not sure. That's basically the $1 million question going into next year, is who is your quarterback going to be and who is your head coach going to be, just in case if nothing goes right with Aaron Glenn. But bringing a young quarterback into New York will be absolutely a great thing, like I said, depending on coaching. But you would have a guy like a Dante Moore, Arch Manning, a Breece Hall, a Garrett Wilson. And I think this team with this, especially the most beautiful thing, I'm going to repeat myself again, is the offensive line with the New York Jets. Not a lot of people are really focused on that. I know because, we didn't have a quarterback last year, and Justin Fields didn't play well and everything else. But if you bring a young quarterback in here again with a veteran coach staff, or you might have a new coaching staff or a new head coach, depending on who he is, everything could be optimistic for the Jets going forward from 2027 and beyond. We all know this is going to be another year where we see the Jets fans are upset. Instead of going 3-14, you might go 6-11. Fine, that's three more wins with a Geno Smith. Do I think that's going to happen? Probably not. You'll probably win 2 more games without firing a coach because your owner is very, very impulsive and he's very, very hands-on, which a lot of people don't like, and a lot of people don't like your ownership, period. But if they do get the quarterback right heading into next year's draft, I think the New York Jets will be okay in the 2027 season. And no, they should not draft Ty Simpson, even though I think Ty Simpson will be good elsewhere. The reason why I don't think they should draft Ty Simpson because I just don't think that he will be great in New York with the media pressure and drafting him with the head coach that's already on the hot seat. I don't think he needs that. I think next year if the Jets again, they remove Aaron Glenn or you guys get a new head coach and the offensive coordinator that's going to come in and revamp this whole entire team, you have something to work with. And also, because you guys traded Sauce Gardner, you desperately need a corner to fill in that void with the 33rd pick in the draft, the first pick in the second round. So for me, I do think that if you guys do that, get a cornerback, get a defensive lineman, and get a wide receiver with the first 3 picks in this year's draft, I think it'll bode well for the New York Jets again. I do believe that this is the 3rd best team in this division. Miami has a long way to go. New England, although they're playing a first place schedule, they went to the Super Bowl and they've upgraded their wide receiver position and their offensive line with Elijah Vera and Tucker if he can stay healthy. But that's for another time, another video. But when it comes to the New York Jets, you guys finished in 4th place last year. So you'll be playing a 4th place schedule, and I think you'll be the 3rd best team in your division because I do think New England is number 1. Buffalo will be 2, and the New York Jets will be 3 because we all know the Dolphins got a long way to go. Before I end this video, I just want to say thank you guys for watching, and please subscribe to the channel for more great content. If you guys want to find all my other opinions about all other teams, there's going to be a playlist called the 2026 Offseason, and it's going to be highlighting all 32 teams in the National Football League in their offseason free agency, what they did a depth chart, but this was just my first video for the 2026 offseason leading in to the NFL Draft. So once again, I thank you guys for watching. If you're a Jets fan, comment down below. If you are just a football fan, you want to be a part of the conversation, please comment down below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit that like button. And please share with your friends and family so we help the channel continue to grow. Until next time, guys, see you real soon.